Hey, how's it going? I'm Ron.
I'm Zach.
We're from Widetrack, and we're here on the new episode of Influences. This week we've got something a little different. Why don't you let the folks at home know what we got going here, Zach?
Well, we have each individually our top 5 favorite albums from the 70s. We are going to be doing this by decade, so our favorite decades are going to come first, so it'll go 70s, whatever our next favorite is, onto our, not worst, but, just not as much of a favorite as all the others. And our lists are going to be from least to most favorite.
So 5 songs, least to favorite, from our favorite decade. And this week, our favorite decade
Is the 70s.
Number 1 is the 70s. We are lovers of the 70s. So, what do you got there?
Well, we will be adding one honorable mention because making this list was excruciatingly painful in the fact that we felt like traitors to our own kind.
Yeah, this was okay. So let's just be honest. If doing this taught us one thing, it was that we're so glad you don't have to choose your favorite, because things that get left off, it just breaks your heart when you get pinned down to no, you only get to pick one, or you only get to pick 5, or you only get to pick one favorite. It's painful, and we lamented a bit before starting this. So
A moment of silence for.
okay. So what's your number 5, Zach?
Well, my number 5 will be Led Zeppelin 3. Led Zeppelin 3 is great,
Today is the anniversary of that album.
and what do you know? Led Zeppelin 3 houses many amazing tracks, such as Friends, multiple acoustic things that aren't coming to my mind at the moment, and of course one of the absolute greatest Led Zeppelin songs of all time, the Immigrant Song.
Immigrant Song. Any album with the Immigrant Song on it is just a great
Is
album.
off to a great start.
Yeah.
It's off to a very phenomenal start.
Today's the 47th anniversary of Led Zeppelin 3. When that album came out, Led Zeppelin had basically just done their first 2 albums, which were both really hard rocking. And then they came out with this acoustic album.
Well, mostly acoustic.
Mostly acoustic album, and it got mixed reviews. It's still kind of considered the red-haired stepchild of the band's
But
catalog.
It is, without these acoustic tracks even, you still have a bunch of amazing songs like the Immigrant Song and Out on the Tiles. But with the acoustic tracks, you have Friends, you have Tangerine, you have
That's the Way.
Bron Rar Stop.
Yep. And one of their best-known classic blues songs, Since I've Been Loving You. The album is definitely underrated, quite often underrated. Like we said, it starts off with the Immigrant Song. That's good enough for me. So, okay, well, my number 5, what did I put? Oh, the Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers. That was a tough choice. The Rolling Stones in the 70s, right during this period, they hit the ground running in the 70s. You had Sticky Fingers, you had Exile on Main Street, Some Girls is even a great album, It's Only Rock and Roll. They were just on fire, but to me, Sticky Fingers, that's got some of my favorite Stones songs. Can't You Hear Me Knockin', Bitch. Those are two different songs. Can't You Hear Me Knockin', comma, Bitch. And I really like Bitch. No, that's a great song. Wild Horses, Brown Sugar, of course. I mean, Sway, which is a deep cut. That's a great album. Sticky Fingers, Rolling Stones, has an Andy Warhol cover with the pants with the zipper and all that.
And the cucumber.
Yeah. Number 4, Zach.
My number 4 is Metal, Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd Metal. Meddle.
So, a little reasoning why it is my favorite, especially when you can pick all these other Pink Floyd albums like Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, The Wall, Animals, even. I mean, there's all these other Pink Floyd albums, and the reason I chose metal was because I find that when I listen to Pink Floyd, metal's the only album really that I should say that really clicked with me. Not to say that I don't enjoy Pink Floyd, I definitely do, but I feel out of all of them, it takes the least amount of effort to really get into metal, for me, personally. Echoes is probably the first Pink Floyd song I ever listened to with headphones, and it's beautiful. It's like 20-something minutes. It's great.
That song has that's the song that Pink Floyd said was when they had their aha moment, where they said, this is what we're going to pursue stylistically. And because after the death of their original singer, Syd Barrett, they just kind of floundered around doing soundtrack music and doing jam music and just kind of looking for a cohesive style. And then they did the metal album. And
another cool thing about it is you can hear a lot of the stuff that's later all in that album.
Yeah.
Like Pillow of Winds, many other tracks.
Pillow of Winds is such a great, one of my favorite songs.
It's very
by them.
reminiscent of all the future
Fearless,
things yet to come.
One
Anyways,
of these days, yeah. Great album.
We're going to have to get a move on here.
Okay, well, my number 4 is Led Zeppelin again. Physical Graffiti. That was a tough one. What can be said about Physical Graffiti that's not already been said? It's the Zeppelin's White Album. It's got all their styles blended into one, and it's phenomenal. It's got the Wanton Song. The interesting thing about that album is that album was recorded in 74, but about half of it were songs that were written and recorded in 74. The rest of them were unused songs from earlier albums.
Which is why Houses of the Holy, the actual song, isn't on the album Houses of the Holy, and rather on the album Physical Graffiti.
Indeed. So that's, some people say that gives Physical Graffiti a bit of a unfair advantage. I've been one of those people, but as far as an album goes, it really is an unbeatable album. Okay.
My number 3. It's time to Prague, ladies and gentlemen. Farewell to Kings.
Rush. They're having the 40th anniversary of that album,
which I will most definitely plaster up on that wall.
Yeah.
Right next to that.
This album, if I may.
Oh, certainly.
Rush did 2112, and that's when they really broke through, and they were basically still a meat and potatoes rock band with progressive elements, and then they said, okay, we've done 4 albums, now we really want to elevate what we do. Maybe we'll add another member to the band and expand our sound, and they decided, no, let's just each of us take on more instrumentation. So Neil Peart's drum set all of a sudden just gathered all of these percussion instruments, everyone imaginable. It grew in size, doubled in size. Geddy Lee expanded his keyboard playing immensely. Alex Lifeson began doing the foot pedals, and their sound, the growth between 2112 and Farewell to Kings is just
like from
astounding.
Led Zeppelin 1 to Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
Which
it's astounding. It's really impressive. Talk about progressive. That's the epitome of progressive right there.
I mean, with tracks like A Farewell to Kings, Xanadu, Closer to the Heart even, and Cygnus X1.
Yeah, Cygnus X1.
Book 1.
Yep. Indeed. Phenomenal.
It's quite the album. Quite the masterpiece.
Oh, my number 3, Black Sabbath. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. My favorite Black Sabbath album. That's a controversial statement. They've got some great ones.
If I may.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons it's so great is because, like Black Sabbath, it was very jammy, but I think more so than many of the other albums, kind of as a whole. And she's got the jammiest songs.
Yeah.
I mean,
The songs are
just good.
they're mostly deep cuts. So I mean the more well-known song, like Black Sabbath just did their farewell tour. They didn't play anything off Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. They played something off pretty much every other album, but they didn't play anything off Sabbath Bloody Sabbath,
Which depresses me, but I'll let it slide.
It was depressing for sure. They were great, but Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is just the title track. It opens with the title track. It's just great. Then it goes into one of my favorite songs of all time, A National Acrobat. And then they don't let up. Then they do Sabracadabra on the instrumental Fluff, which shows a real delicate side of Black Sabbath. And they also did Killing Yourself to Live on that
Which
album.
may be the best song on the album.
Holy cow, it's great.
I mean, it's hard to pick.
Spiral Architect. I mean, that album to me it's my number 3.
My number 2 may come as a tad bit of surprise. It is Kiss. Alive / double platinum, because you can't really go by album. It's not really how they work. But
Alive is a live album, and Double Platinum is a compilation.
so I've decided to compilate.
They count
both
as one
those.
album.
That all counts, because really, in order to properly say that Kiss is your number 2 spot and above Led Zeppelin 3, Metal, and Farewell to Kings, you have to be picky. So, songs off just about every album up until about the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Pick and
Up to
choose.
78, yeah.
You pick and choose from there. Absolute gems. Some of the greatest songs
Tory
in
Rock
rock,
City,
like just
Rock and
regular
Roll
old rock.
Night, yeah.
I mean,
Black Diamond.
100,000 Years.
It's a great song.
I Want
She,
You.
I Want You, yeah. This goes on and on, Calling Dr. Love, all that stuff. And we get kind of criticized sometimes for our love of the years of 73 to 78, that 5-year period of Kiss when they were great, in our opinions. A lot of people, it's kind of a you had to be there thing. But yeah, we stick by, and as we said before in our influences episode that featured Kiss, you ask bands like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and all these 90s bands, and they will all tell you we're hugely influenced by Kiss
Even
from that time.
Adam Jones from
Tool,
which
Maynard, they love classic era Kiss. So
that gives us bonus points. Moving on.
okay, yeah, my number 2 was progressive rock at its finest, the Genesis album, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Peter Gabriel, his last album with Genesis, 1974. It's a double album. Phil Collins, a lot of people say Phil Collins was a cheesy dude in the 80s, whatever. His drumming back in those days, amazing drummer, amazing. And this album's my number 2 of the 70s. I love every single thing about it. I saw a Genesis tribute band called the Musical Box from England. They performed the album in its entirety a few years ago, and it just blew me away. The album translates to a live setting so well, but that's my number 2.
And my number 1, I mean, come on. The other poster on my ceiling, Fragile, by Yes. Where to start off about Fragile? It's Roundabout's
Roundabout.
an
Classic.
internet phenomenon. After a little bit, it picks back up into, I believe, South Side of the Sky is where the streak, I like to call it, starts. South Side of the Sky, I believe, was Rick Wakeman's kind of song for the album. It features a little keyboard solo, and it's dark. It's beautiful. It's really cool. The whole song is kind of a certain type of moody. I don't know. I think it's cool. But not to get sidetracked here. After that is 5% for nothing, but that's nothing. Long Distance Runaround. It's a great song, and it ties into Chris Squire's part of the album, which is The Fish, which he actually sent a roadie out to try and find a name, or a fish name with 8 syllables, and he came back saying, hey, best I can do is 9. So that's the name of the
I can't
song.
pronounce it either.
Yeah, not even gonna try. After that is Mood for a Day, which is Steve Howe's contribution to the album. Absolutely beautiful. I tried to learn it once. I failed pretty miserably, but it taught me something. I didn't even feel bad, you know. I said, well, thank goodness I can't learn. And concluding the album is Heart of the Sunrise, dude.
That's one of the greatest songs ever written. That is a masterpiece, if there ever was one. Yeah, and
I don't have words.
Mad love for that album myself, man. That's a good choice. That's a good choice. My number one favorite album of the 70s is Pink Floyd Animals. That's just one of those albums that Pink Floyd doesn't really play anything off it when they're in their most recent incarnations. Roger Waters plays a bit off it. It's bookended by Pigs on the Wing Part 1 and Part 2. And then you have 3 songs, 3 long, awesome, amazing songs. Dogs, pigs, 3 different ones, and sheep. And it's sublime. It is just the most enchantingly haunting album I've ever heard. I love it. David Gilmour is amazing vocals and guitar. Roger Waters' lyrics it was the first sign of Roger Waters' anger in a Pink Floyd album, and it came on strong. Nick Mason and Richard Wright are phenomenal on it as well. It's great. 1977, so it's 40 years old this year. So there we have each our top 5 albums of our favorite
Sadly,
decade.
the immense energy of these albums, even the mention of their name, is enough to seesaw words that are inadequate, which is why my vocabulary got a nice kick in the throat. Because how are you supposed to describe something so beautiful?
Yeah. And so, as a bonus, each of us kind of thought of an honorable mention album.
Because, we felt awful. Because it's awful that you have to disclose so many great bands. My honorable mention was the debut Aerosmith album. I love this album. It features Make It, which is cool. I think is cool. It features One Way Street. I believe that is the title. Walking the Dog.
My favorite.
And of course, Dream On, which...
Yeah. Mama Kin.
What is no Dream On? I mean,
that album's great, man. That's an interesting choice, dude. I love that album.
And as for all the other Aerosmith albums, I find that I enjoy them all. Definitely enjoy them all. But I feel as for a total ratio of songs to album listening experience to how much I like all of them, it all evens out at a pretty high average for the debut Aerosmith album.
That's a good one. My honorable mention is AC/DC Powerage. Came out in 1978. It was the last AC/DC album produced by Angus Young and Malcolm Young's brothers. I forget their names. but before Mutt Lange came on to produce them and take them to superstar success. Power Ridge, you know, I need to sit down and listen to that because unfortunately we just lost Malcolm Young, and may he rest in peace. He was the backbone of the band. Power Ridge features Sin City and my favorite AC/DC song of all time, Down Payment Blues. What's Next to the Moon Gone Shooting. Some really cool deep cuts by the band and just a really different vibe for them. But phenomenal all the same. So that's our list. I think the only thing that would need to be mentioned is if you really had to pin us down and somebody say, what would you say would be the definitive rock album of the 70s? That's maybe not your favorite, but that I think we kind of think, or maybe the Dark Side of the Moon kind of would take that place. But we would welcome a discussion with you guys about that one.
So please, what do you think the definitive rock album?
What is the definitive rock album of the
70s?
And
Yeah. As well as that, what are your favorite? What are your top 5 favorite
yeah,
albums?
list
from
them
the
off.
70s?
You shoot it over in the comments, and we love this kind of stuff. We love seeing people's lists.
And if you, of course, can't pick 5, feel free to cheat as we did and add however many you want. 'Cause,
Indeed.
I mean, it's not fair.
So this week's the 70s. Next week we will have another decade, our second favorite, close second though.
We're not gonna tell you though, 'cause
Don't want to ruin the surprise. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hope you will. And also, if you are interested in hearing about the band and what we do, we'd love to have you join our newsletter. Subscribe at www.widetrackmusic.com, and we'll send you some free songs and a little bit of a historical story about how we came together with all this. So in the meantime, hope you're doing great. Stay in touch. Until next time, keep on rocking.